Today we're going to be taking this here railroad spike. We're going to make an oyster shucker out of it. First we got to get it cleaned up. These two. Yeah. All I did was take the tip of this and stretch it out a little bit. That's going to be the tooth or the actual shucker part of our oyster shucker. Alright, so now we're going to set up for our pineapple twist, which I usually like to leave about 1 inch to 2 inches on the tooth, which almost came out already, almost at 2 inches. We'll mark right here. And this mark is just to where I'm going to cut to. I won't pass here, cut on the tooth, but this down the center is where I'm going to cut. And there's a couple ways you can do it. I usually just use an angle grinder. Makes life a little bit easier. But if you can use a like a cold chisel, or you can get it hot and chisel it in. Either way, it's fine, but so here you can see I've cut right here to this chalk line, and up here on the top of the railroad spike I've just barely hit it, which leaves just this little bit of space. And when we twist it, we'll twist it this way once. This will be back on this side. We'll hammer it all down, cut it again. But when we twist it back, this will be back over here. And this little space is just for your pinky, which just helps with like when we take down these edges later on when we're grinding. This isn't jabbing into your pinky when you're trying to shuck an oyster. So we'll do the same thing on all the sides. Same line again. This time though, we're going to go higher up. So instead of stopping here, where this line stopped, we'll probably end up like here. Because this won't be in our way, and this doesn't really affect your fingers too much when you're holding it. Which you'll see when we twist it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Again to this chalk line, and then right here's the other line, or the end of the other line on this side, and then here's the end of this side. So all these lines on at least 3 faces will be this length, and this inside one will be this same length. And I'm just marking this with a piece of metal just so I don't cut into this tooth, or the top of the railroad spike. Or then you have a fat grind line there and it looks bad. Again, there's where this other one ends. This one ends here, and right here to the chalk line, which will leave this tooth, or your shucker part, about 2 inches, which will forge out a little bit longer anyway. So I usually thin this part out here, and then take this, leave all this meat here for when you're actually shucking the oyster. This won't be so flimsy, it won't break right here. Same thing again, we'll mark it. So right here is our underneath cut, or where our fingers will sit. Here to here, side, chalk line down to here, top, chalk line down to here, side, chalk line down to here, and then again the inside of the fingers. Just a little bit, and it leaves this here for your pinky. Next we'll get it hot and we'll twist it. Alright, so I got this bad boy ripping hot. Put it in the vise, twist it. It doesn't matter which way you twist it, but if you're like right-handed people, I always twist to the left and then twist back. Left-handed, twist the opposite way and then come back. It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect it, it's just what I do. Use this old pipe wrench to twist. This seems to be good, it has a lot of weight. Go right to where your chalk line was. Get it nice and tight. Try not to burn your knuckles. And then twist. Make your adjustments. This tooth to line up with, or the top of this spike to line up with your tooth. It doesn't matter if it's off a little bit, we'll forge it and adjust it. So this here, see if I can get it in focus for you. Here's where we cut with our angle grinder, and we twist it one rotation. Now the whole thing's twisted. We're going to take it, we're going to heat it back up, hammer it all back down flat on all the faces, and then we'll cut it again. And we twist it this way, so the next time we'll twist the opposite way, we'll twist towards you, and you'll see the pineapple twist or little diamonds that come out. So right here on these lines is where our angle grinder was, or where we made those cuts. And all I did was take the twist that when I twisted it this way, I took all those peaks and flattened it down on all the faces, so there's nothing, no twist anymore. We're gonna let this cool. Right here is where our original chalk line was, from where this grind line is. I always use my top face line, or you can use the longest line. It doesn't make a difference, just how you want it to look, I suppose. But let this cool. We're going to take the angle grinder again, cut from this point back up to this top point here, at the top of this spike, on all the faces. Then we'll heat it back up, twist it back the opposite way. So instead of this way, we'll twist it towards you, opening up all these lines and taking the other lines that we just cut and twisting them. So these lines will be twisted, and the lines that are straight down will be twisted, and it'll open up and make it look like a pineapple, or like elongated diamonds, I guess would be another term. And after we do that, we'll take this tooth, we'll stretch this tooth back out. It's hot. This would be the side profile. And so right here are our grind lines from earlier that we made with the angle grinder. And this part is our actual shucker, or our tooth. And right here is the old chalk line. There's still some chalk there actually. And up here. So what we're going to do now is, once it cools a little bit, we'll cut from here back up to here on all the faces, make new lines, and instead of twisting it this way, when we get it hot again, we'll twist it back the other way, which will open up all these twists, creating like a pineapple effect, or like long diamonds on it. This twist is called the pineapple twist, but some people say it looks like diamonds, so it really doesn't matter, but I think it looks good. And after that, after we get these twists in, we'll start stretching out this tooth a little bit farther, and we'll leave this meat here as much as we possibly can, and stretch this part out just a little bit, and then we'll grind most of it and shape it, but we'll try to get as close as we can with the forge so we don't have to grind too much. Kind of forge to shape instead of grind to shape. And then after that, we'll take this, and I like to take this end and bend it that way, so it creates a curve for your fingers, a little bit of a grab. And then after this is bent, this tooth will be brought back up and then back down, so that you can use this tooth, and this will act like a little bit of a guard for your fingers. Alright, we'll add our chalk line again, just so you can see it. And like I said before, here's this little line that we cut on. This is the inside where your fingers go. Right here's that line that we cut, leaving this little bit of a gap. We'll cut that line again up to this point, and when we twist it all back, this will still be open. And we'll grind all this away here, just to make it easier on your on the pinky. And if you're using a grinder for this, when you're cutting, you just have to go a little bit slower. There's a million different ways you can grind, but I like to go a little bit slower, because once you get to this point, your grinder will tend to grab into this old grind line and this grind line here and this one, and it'll start following it. Alright, so this is the top part, which will still be the top, but it'll be twisted. But I like these lines touching, the side, Bottom lines are touching, top lines are parallel. Bottom, top ones are touching, or bottom ones are touching, top ones are parallel. And the other side, bottom ones are touching, top ones are parallel, which is just your grind lines. And then again, top is touching, touching. So we'll heat it back up, twist it back towards you the opposite way, open it all up, forge it to shape, and then we'll grind. Over right to your chalk line. Now we're going to twist the opposite direction. Pineapple, or end our pineapple twist. There's that part I was telling you about where your pinky and your ring finger will go, more than likely. Softens, keeps it soft, doesn't have these here. We'll forge this to shape, then we'll grind. All I'm doing now is just shaping the tooth of the shucker. Again. And I always try to keep just this part on the anvil so you don't screw up your pineapple twist. So my camera died while I was forging. This is where I got to. This is kind of the final forging. I put this curve in, like I said, and then I flattened this back out. And the way I did that was I just heated up the center, put it right back up to your chalk line, and then just bent it down. So let me get it a little bit better. So kind of created that curve. This is the tooth end right here. And I heated that back up, and on the anvil, just went like that. So I made the curve. Alright, so I just put a flap disc on here. It's an older flap disc, so it won't grind really deep into this. I'm trying just to take off the imperfections and the hammer marks, which there isn't a lot. Forging it wise, I didn't put too many hammer marks in it when I was bending the tooth back, and there's not too many tooling marks from the vise. And all I have is just a towel around the pineapple twist because I don't have any soft jaws for the vise. Start with this back side first for the top of the railroad spike. I usually do bottom, top, and then I do the sides. go. All the way around. Both sides match. And this part's flat. Put a brand new flat disc on here so we can clean up these torn marks. So we got that polished, not completely, there's still some marks there. Still some marks on this side. Bottom looks good. Side looks good. There's no more tooling marks on the top. Alright. Take it to the belt sander. We'll start shaping just this portion. Radius all these edges. We'll shape this portion here, which is about an inch or so, into the actual shucker part. Alright, so we're going to be grinding this tip down, shaping it. I use just the slack. I don't use the plate for these, just because it's this. If you use the plate, it's just going to grind it flat. We're trying to put a belly on it. Oyster shuckers, I don't quench them very, very hot. They don't need to be very hot. Just like a knife. Just a nice golden red. Magnet doesn't stick to it anymore. That's about good. That's where I usually heat treat. I'll put it back in, heat it up just a little bit longer, and we'll quench it. Quench it. So I've let it cool, and now it just has just this black scale on it. We're going to wire wheel that off. I don't go completely down into these grooves here, because I like to see the lines that are still black, and some of the peaks you'll see. Keep the scale on it. I think it looks cool, but we'll repolish this down, and this back end we'll do after we get this front done. I do it kind of in sections. I do the top first, side, bottom, and then I go to the back. Perfect. Alright, once you finish grinding with the wire wheel and you've got all that scale off and it's back down to the metal, take a look at your pineapple twist, which actual shucker part, which I just call it the tooth. I don't know if that's the proper terminology for it. I don't eat oysters, I just make the shuckers, but we're going to hand polish this and make it look nice. So when I hand polish these oyster shuckers, I just use a little square or rectangle of 320 grit, put a little bit of water on it. I normally grind down. I think it looks better. You can grind across, it really doesn't matter. But I won't bore you with that. I'll grind this all up, and once it's finished, I'll show you the finished product. Alright, so I've cleaned up the edges, the edges a little bit, polished the sides, the bottom. Here's a regular spike, just a plain old spike that we've now turned into an oyster shucker. Has a good grip. The edge on it here is still fat. What I like to do, which I didn't show on camera because it just takes me a while, is I like to slowly grind it down. Not completely sharp because railroad spikes are not, they don't hold an edge very well. So I don't make it completely sharp like a knife blade. I make it just sharp enough. Add a little bit of on the sides. I bring the sides in a little bit, and I just thin it out just a little bit. Not very thin and not as thick as this. Just enough to get under an oyster shucker or an oyster shell. You know, you're not breaking down doors with these or chopping in the wood with them or doing anything of that manner. You're opening oysters. That's all you're doing. To sand it, there's a couple different ways. Like I said, I normally do just a rectangle piece or square piece of 320, and I just put some water on it. Or you could use an old flat disc that has nothing left. Works really well if you're just trying to polish. There's nothing on here. It doesn't even sand the wood. This one's pretty much brand new. Very aggressive. I use this one for shaping, like you saw. Actually get through the metal, grind down the metal with this one. And then again, this one, an old flat disc, is good for polishing. I'm not pressing hard on this. You don't need to. You're just knocking back the scale, that's all. But that was how to make an oyster shucker out of a railroad spike. It's very easy, very simple process. Takes about a half hour. There's hundreds of ways you can make oyster shuckers. If I remember, I'll put some on the screen so you can see.